You thought you'd seen everything from Epstein's files? You've only scratched the tip of the iceberg. After this breakdown, you'll never look at world leaders, pandemics, political connections, pretty much anything the same way again. This entire system that's been built.
Who do you think those people were? Those were not just ordinary people there. If I told you their names, I'm not going to tell you their names, but if I did, I don't think you'd sleep so well.
Oh, we know their names very well now. I mean, we knew them before too, but we needed proof. How does it feel to be part of a community that was talking about these things many years ago? And what's crazy is that now the entire world is talking about it. People around the world are now realizing that nothing is as polished, as cleaned up, as it was shown to us on our TV screens. A lot of people have analyzed Stanley Kubrick's famous 1999 film Eyes Wide Shut, and they've come to a disturbing conclusion. It feels like Kubrick was warning us about this world, almost as if, through the character of Ziegler, he was portraying Epstein himself. Many believe that this is exactly what cost Kubrick his life.
They're taking her away. They've given their daughter to the pedo cult. That's what's happened at the end of the movie. And there's an incident when they first screened the movie in England, people who were outside, who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't fucking cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later.
Many people who studied Kubrick's work believe that a part of the film is missing, that the movie was never fully completed. And throughout the entire film, it feels like Kubrick is showing us what happens in that hidden world, the world where the rainbow ends.
Don't you want to go where the rainbow ends?
Well, now that depends where that is.
Well, let's find out.
By analyzing these scenes, we came to the conclusion that where the rainbow ends is actually the place where abuse of the youngest takes place. It's unbelievable. But Ziegler operates in a way that's strikingly similar to Epstein. We only fully realized this after the release of these new 3 million files that were suddenly put out into the public. Many people focused on finding the most disturbing footage, images, mentions of sick acts, but I also focused on his normal conversations, on his mindset, and I came to discoveries that are even more disturbing than some of the clips from those files. You start to realize how deeply everything is connected. You realize they were discussing everything from pandemics to brain research, hormones, even things that sound like they came straight out of science fiction. And everywhere, they were trying to position themselves as the ones in control. Powerful people are involved in all of it, from influential journalists to professors in high-ranking positions. It starts to feel like you can't trust anyone. In today's clip, we're going through some of the most disturbing documents I've come across. Sit back, get comfortable, and pay close attention. And let's start with Bill Gates.
We all want to return to the way things were before COVID-19. But there's one area where I hope we never go back: our complacency about pandemics. We can get ahead of infectious disease outbreaks. By the next pandemic, I believe we can have what I call mega testing diagnostic platform.
Bill Gates, the central figure during the pandemic. He was basically presented as the face of science. He taught us how to live during the pandemic, how to fight it, and how to prepare for future global pandemics. And if anyone dared to criticize his words, they were immediately labeled a conspiracy theorist, someone who doesn't trust the science, or that so-called expert class. During the pandemic, certain epidemiologists kept telling us, if you're not from the field, you have no right to discuss these topics. And now I ask them, then explain this document, Jeffrey Epstein. This is an email in which Epstein, years after his criminal convictions, proposes strategic projects to Bill Gates in healthcare, neurotechnology, national security, and pandemics, speaking as an equal partner. In this email sent on March 3rd, 2017, Jeffrey Epstein contacts Bill Gates regarding his involvement in a company called BGC3. The email has a fully professional, strategic tone and reads like a continuation of conversations the two had already been having. Here, Epstein shows particular interest in 2 areas: U.S. domestic healthcare and neurotechnology, including brain science. As I went through all these Epstein documents, I realized he was heavily focused on neurotechnology and brain research. And now the question is, why is that disturbing? Epstein had absolutely no background in healthcare. It's already strange how he even got access to these elite circles, which raises the question, was he placed there? He's discussing things side by side with a man who, just 3 years later, would become the main face of medicine and the pandemic itself. During the pandemic, Gates's influence reaches its peak. He becomes a top 3 donor to the World Health Organization. And once you reach that level, can anyone seriously claim you don't have influence inside that organization? And can anyone honestly say that someone like that can't shape the direction that organization takes? In this same document, we see Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein discussing the following topics. They propose creating a blueprint for a cryptography-based digital health data system, one that would protect privacy while allowing controlled access to sensitive information. So to summarize, here we see Bill Gates and third parties discussing the creation of a system that would store store medical records, health data of ordinary citizens. And overseeing all of this is Jeffrey Epstein. He's in the email chain, forwarding messages, managing the flow, connecting people. Who is he to have access to all of this? And actually, who is Bill Gates? The email also discusses what may be the most important topic of all. One of the final points in the document mentions developing additional recommendations, technical specifications, for pandemic simulations. Yes, you heard that right. And now someone will tell you in the media, there's nothing strange about that. Pandemic simulations have existed for decades. Experts run them to prepare for potential global outbreaks. Yes, these simulations are real and have been happening for a long time. But then, why is Jeffrey Epstein coordinating these conversations? What does he have to do with healthcare? And now let's see what Bill Gates has to say after all these new documents surfaced.
The more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Let me explain something. They're not sorry. They're sorry they got caught associating with Epstein, and it's not like they met him once, and that was it. Their relationship, let's call it a friendship, lasted for years, and everyone who says, we didn't know what he was involved in, we didn't know what he was doing, is lying. Do you know that Epstein was a convicted sex offender? Convicted back in 2008, and when is this email from? 2017. In 2005, the first reports from girls in Florida came out. In 2006, the police formally launched an investigation. In 2007, a secret deal was made with the prosecution. In 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty. He was convicted on significantly reduced charges related to illegal contact and abuse of minors, even though by that point there were dozens of victim testimonies. The sentence he received was 18 months in prison, of which he served about 13 under a special arrangement that allowed him to leave custody daily. In practice, this sentence is often described as symbolic rather than a real punishment for the severity of the crimes, meaning that under this system, while he was technically serving time, he could still have been doing the very things he was convicted for. That's deeply disturbing, and this tells us that the system absolutely knew what he was doing. Yet now, suddenly everyone has amnesia and claims they had no idea, despite the fact that he had been charged many years earlier. Bill Gates appears in even more emails, but we'll show those in a future video. Many people have said that Epstein wasn't particularly intelligent in the traditional sense. He never finished college, he dropped out. He worked as a regular math teacher at an elite school, the Dalton School, without formal qualifications, which is interesting on its own. People from the financial world often said he didn't deeply understand math, finance, or economics. He used vague terms and unclear language. He couldn't clearly explain what he actually did.
Music is a great example. It's a common man's example. You know when you hear a certain song, it makes you feel a certain way. How does it do that?
Based on all of this, it seems he had extremely advanced manipulative and social intelligence. He knew how to read people and connect with them, but to me it really feels like he was placed there, handed access to every powerful contact imaginable. In various emails I read, these influential people almost treated him like a fixer, as if whenever they needed a connection, any connection, Jeffrey Epstein would handle it. Here's an example. Norwegian journalists managed to uncover how Epstein helped position Bill Gates at the head of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee in 2013. Additionally, after they exposed the financial dealings between Epstein and the former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations, Terje Rud Larsen, Larsen immediately resigned from his position as president of the International Peace Institute in New York. Another possible piece of evidence showing Epstein's global connections, his ties to politicians from different countries, can be found directly in the Epstein files. People discovered this video.
Take a look at this video I found in the Epstein files, which appears to be taken on Epstein's plane. There are two girls and a man who is not redacted. Does anybody know who this man is?
Top, un avion magique.
In it, we can see what appears to be Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. There are two girls, or possibly minors. Their identities are protected, but the identity of this man is not. People across the internet tried to figure out who he was, and it appears they did. The man in the video closely resembles a politician named Emmanuel Nkosinati Mntetwa. He was a South African politician who served as South Africa's ambassador to France from 2024 until his death in 2025. He represented the African National Congress in South Africa's National Assembly from 2002 to 2023 and served as a cabinet minister between September 2008 and March 2023. He remained ambassador to France until September 30th, 2025, when he fell from the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel. It is suspected that he jumped. Given that this happened not long ago, and considering his possible connection to Epstein, we have every right to question whether this was really a clean situation. Now, I came across one very disturbing email from 2010 between Epstein and an unidentified woman. This email email helps explain what Epstein was really doing, especially with certain women. Here, he's communicating, as I mentioned, with a female individual who says the following: I call him now my future husband, and we're talking about daughter. Thought I would never be able to kill somebody in my life. I was wrong. Might escape anyway, miss you, Jeffrey. Big kiss, although now you probably won't like to kiss me anymore. So, this unidentified woman is saying that she killed someone, and the conversation doesn't end there. This entire exchange somehow finally suggests how Jeffrey Epstein's operation really worked, and how he managed to get close to so many powerful people. This woman discusses with Epstein how she is in a relationship with a man who has power over her, professionally and financially. She says that the relationship disgusts her, but that she endures it because she has to. She talks about relationships as an obligation, not as something she wants. Epstein doesn't tell her to get away or protect herself. Instead, he gives her advice on how to endure it, how to behave, what to say, how to present herself to others, and how not to cause problems. He positions himself as a controller and advisor, someone managing the situation. This email feels like yet another indirect piece of evidence of how Jeffrey Epstein operated. To me, it looks like he sent this woman to a powerful individual to be with him and extract information. He tells her how to behave, how not to be too forward, how not to end up like someone from before. He mentions that someone previously overexposed themselves, and it ended their career. To me, it feels like this woman may have been one of Epstein's victims as a girl, and then, through trauma and various methods of psychological manipulation, he turned her into, literally, his soldier. Did Jeffrey Epstein do this with many of these girls? And did he later use them to obtain sensitive information from powerful people? Did Epstein turn the girls he abused into his own army? Think about this. Do you remember when the news broke that he planned to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women at his New Mexico ranch? One of his properties where young women, including minors, were abused? Many believe that the woman behind these messages is a mysterious figure, Jeffrey Epstein's pilot, Nadia Marchenko. It's believed that she was involved in modeling as a teenager and then mysteriously became a pilot. She was a regular pilot on the so-called dark flights where disturbing acts took place. Early victim reports in Palm Beach police records from 2005 and 2006 already described Marchenko as being actively involved, often with Epstein instructing her to participate in sexual acts with recruited victims. Based on everything we've seen, it appears that Marchenko may have been a victim of Jeffrey Epstein while she was still a child, and later became his soldier. If you go through Epstein's documents, you'll realize he was obsessed with manipulation, psychology, neuropsychology, and dominance over people, over his victims. And honestly, that makes sense. Another possible indirect piece of evidence is this email. It comes from an unidentified person. In the body of the email, there are 2 short sentences. Thank you for the fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty. Incredibly disturbing, but once again, this indirectly suggests that Epstein used his victims to obtain information on and blackmail influential people. And now, we come to another email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Harvard professor Martin Nowak. In the message, Epstein briefly asks, "Did you torture her?" Below that is an email Nowak sent earlier that same morning, which reads, "Our spy was captured after completing her mission." On April 25th, 2009, we see yet another series of disturbing emails between Jeffrey Epstein and an unknown individual. As you can see, the authorities once again protected the identity of this third party. Overall, Epstein writes the following to this person: "Where are you? Are you okay? I liked the torture video." The reply says, "I'm in China. I'll be in the United States the second week of May." And Epstein responds, "Hope to see you." And with that, we're going to end this video. In the next video, we move on to much more serious material, files that mention the consumption of children, other locations you haven't really heard about in the media. There is another extremely disturbing location, and soon I'll also be getting footage from a YouTuber who entered Epstein's island, and many more disturbing revelations. If you want the next video, make sure to support this one with a like. Thanks for the support. See you in the next one.